transport systems in human beings. For this topic, this is where we'll take a look at the circulatory system. We will focus on the heart, blood vessels, and of course, we'll take a look at immunity, how the body helps to fight off diseases. So let's get into it. Now, all organisms, whether they are unicellular or multicellular, they require what is called, well, they require certain things to survive. I think all of us will know that. Some of the things that all organisms would need to survive would include oxygen and food. From food, we get mineral nutrients, glucose, amino acids, etc. We also need hormones and other chemicals and enzymes to survive. You get this, you get the point. But with all of those important things that we need, food and all of these different things, we also need to get them around the body. It's one thing to eat food that has nutrients in it, but it's another thing when you realize that you have to take those nutrients to different parts of the body. Also, when we eat, or as you would have seen in the topic of respiration, when we respire and produce energy, we also produce waste. And the body must have a mechanism to get rid of waste. So just like how the body has to have a mechanism to utilize useful nutrients and oxygen and so on, there must be a mechanism in which the body could get rid of waste. How do we do all of that? That is where we need what is called a transport system. We need what is called a transport system. Now, transport system is somewhat like just like how we have roads and railways and airports and all of these things that help us to get from one place to another. The only difference is with the transport systems we're talking about here, we're looking at how our bodies have transport systems that help get nutrients to different parts of the body, and how they help to also get rid of waste from the body. All right. Now I want to take a look at these 4 organisms. Up here we have amoeba. They are unicellular organisms. This is a bacterium, a single bacterium. This is also a unicellular organism. However, this is an elephant, and I think everybody knows who this is. This is a human being. Now, we want to take a look at the difference between these organisms. Amoeba and bacteria are unicellular. They are only made up of one cell. Their entire body is just one cell. They are very small, very, very small. They are actually said to have what is known as a small surface area to volume ratio. What does that mean? Surface area to volume ratio. It means that for the area outside of their single cell body, inside their body is very small. So whenever you hear an organism has a small surface area to volume ratio, it just means that that organism is too small to have or to need a transport system. So for example, with this bacterium, we don't see a heart or lungs or blood vessels or whatever trying to transport nutrients. All that happens, nutrients will just simply absorb themselves through the membrane and into the bacterium or into the amoeba. Why? Because they're small. They don't need a circulatory system. But elephants and human beings, on the other hand, we're very large. And not just that, we're complex. We have a lot of parts. We have a lot of systems. So as a result now, we need a transport system to help get nutrients efficiently to different parts of the body, as well as to take nutrients away from the body. I hope everyone is understanding me so far right there. Okay? So when we speak about the surface area to volume ratio, we realize that when an organism has too large of a surface area to volume ratio, which tends to be multicellular organisms, it means that they are very large in size. And not just they're large in size, but they're complex, they're complicated. So as a result, for example, if you are hungry, you would not go down the road and take a piece of chicken and rub it on your skin to ease your hunger, right? You are a multicellular organism, so you don't expect the nutrients from the chicken to absorb through your skin. what would happen is you would eat the chicken through your mouth, and then your bodily systems would break down the chicken and then absorb nutrients from the chicken. I remember we would have taken a look at that when we looked at digestion. So, because now we are multicellular organisms, or we are complex and we are large, we can't just depend on oxygen oozing through our skin or the nutrients from food or water oozing through our skin to quench our thirst or ease our hunger. We need what are called transport systems. Now, in this topic, we'll be taking a look at the transport system that occurs in humans and animals. And this transport system is known as a circulatory system. And then in the next topic, we'll take a look at the transport systems in plants. And those transport systems are known as vascular bundles. So today, let's take a look at the circulatory system. Now, everyone is familiar or has a general idea of what we mean by the circulatory system. It is a system that is responsible for carrying nutrients to, or you could say around the body, as well as taking waste products from the body. All right. It does this by the mechanism of a heart and a beating heart that pumps blood. The blood is what carries the nutrients and the waste products to and from the body. So it's very important to take note of this. So we see here a general artistic expression of the circulatory system with the heart there in the middle of your chest. And as you can see, there are various sizes of blood vessels coming to and from the heart. We're going to learn about those now, but you can see that those blood vessels, they differ in size, but they're going all over the body, all over the body. Now, this is a general diagram of the circulatory system. And one of the things you have to get accustomed to is the orientation of the circulatory system, the parts of the circulatory system, and of course, how they function and how blood flows, all right? So the circulatory system is really made up of three main parts, right? It's made up of the blood vessels, and the heart. The blood serves as a medium to transport substances around the body. Blood vessels, those are the tubes. Like, for example, what we see here, those are the tubes. All of these tubes, those are blood vessels. These are the tubes through which blood flows to and from all parts of the body. And of course, you have the heart, and there's the heart right there in the middle of the chest, right? So the heart pumps blood through the blood vessels, all right? Now, it is very important for us to understand the different parts of the circulatory system. Very, very important for us to understand those different parts. Now, the circulatory system in humans and other mammals is made up of course, we saw the heart, the blood, and the blood vessels. And of course, we know that the heart acts as a pump to keep the blood circulating throughout the body in the blood vessels. Now, a little bit about each part, the blood vessels. Now, blood flows through the body in a network of tubes called blood vessels. And we're going to take a deeper look at these three tubes: arteries, veins, and capillaries. We're going to take a closer look at them in a short while. But I want us to take a very quick look at the circulatory system. So let's take a look at this diagram. Now, in the middle here, that is your heart, and you have a lot of different blood vessels and so on going on. So we want to kind of take our time to understand what's really going on here. So first of all, you have your heart, all right? And then now you realize that there are a bunch of blood vessels connected to the heart. Now, to the side of your heart, you see you have your lungs over here, as well as your other lung over here. There are blood vessels coming from the heart. I want you to follow with this. We're going to go deeper into this in a while. But there are blood vessels coming from the heart. You see that? Blood vessels coming from the heart. And there are blood vessels going back to the heart. You would also notice that there are some arrows indicating how blood flows through the circulatory system. And we will be getting to that so that we could understand better how blood flows. But there is something important we want to consider, and it is this term, double circulation. Now, during one complete circulation in mammals, the blood flows through the heart twice. The heart is divided into two halves, all right? The blood in these two halves do not mix. So we're going to see this just now when we take a deeper look at the diagram of the heart. Now, the figure below, figure 13.224, actually this figure here, this figure to the side, sorry, it shows how blood arrives at the heart from the organs and the tissues of the body and then travels to the lungs. From the lungs, the blood travels back to the heart and then to the organs and tissues of the body. The route followed by the blood is something like this, right? The body, back to the heart, then to the lungs, then to the heart, then to the body. Now, it is very important to remember, what does this term mean? Double circulation. We have a circulatory system that is a double circulatory system. What does that mean in simple terms? It means that the heart pumps blood in two cycles. The heart pumps blood to the lungs. That's the first cycle. And then the heart pumps blood around the body. That's the second cycle. So once again, let's say it again. Double circulation means that the heart pumps blood in two cycles. The first cycle is where the heart pumps blood to the lungs. And the second cycle is where the heart pumps blood around the body. So if we're taking a look at the circulatory system, let's see how best we could understand how the blood is flowing in a basic way. So let's start with this side of the heart. All right, let's start with this side of the heart. Now, as a matter of fact, let's start up here. Let's start up here with the lungs. Now, remember, in respiration, we would have taken a look at how when we breathe in oxygen, the oxygen would go into the blood vessels and into the blood so that it could go to the different parts of the body. So this blood vessel going here, and you can see it is labeled pulmonary vein. This blood vessel is carrying oxygen, or blood containing oxygen, what we call oxygenated blood, meaning blood containing oxygen. This blood that is containing oxygen flows from the lungs through the pulmonary vein to the heart. Then it enters the heart right here. I hope you're following me here. Right, it enters this heart. It enters the heart right here. You can see the arrow is going deeper into the heart, and then it would shoot up through this channel. Look at the cursor carefully, and it would go into this next blood vessel. This next blood vessel is called the aorta. Now, the aorta is responsible for carrying blood from the heart to the lower region, to the different parts of the body, as well as you can see, up to the head and the arms. So the aorta is a very important blood vessel. As a matter of fact, the aorta is actually the largest blood vessel in the body. All right. Then the aorta continues to carry blood. It carries blood until it reaches another artery called the mesenteric artery. The mesenteric artery now carries blood to your intestines. Now, when you eat food and obtain nutrients from the food you eat, the nutrients will go into they will go through your digestive tract and into your mesenteric artery. Very amazing, eh? Then if you continue from your digestive tract, you realize that the nutrients now start going through this thing called the hepatic portal vein. And the nutrients now have to go over to the hepatic portal vein towards your liver. This is your liver right here. Now, the liver's responsibility is to control or to manage how nutrients are used in the body. The liver is like the manager of the body in terms of nutrients and so on. So, like, for example, if you eat food and it's filled with carbohydrates, the liver now has to determine how those carbohydrates are used. So it would say, okay, we're going to send some here, some there, we're going to store up some, etc. That is what the liver's purpose is. And then anything remaining after the liver has utilized the nutrients coming from your digestive tract, anything remaining now will come through this part called the hepatic vein, which then leads right back to the heart. But let's go back over to the mesenteric artery here. So we're following the aorta. This is the mesenteric artery. Let's continue. Some of the blood would also continue flowing down to what we call the renal artery. Now, the renal artery is what supplies the kidneys with blood. It supplies the kidneys with blood. And then, of course, we have some of the blood going down through what we call the iliac artery. The iliac artery provides blood to your lower abdominal region and your legs. So from your waistline, go right down to your toes. Those are supplied with blood from your iliac artery. Let's go up from the iliac artery now. So, as you can see here, this mesh of blood vessels represents when oxygen is utilized by the body and when carbon dioxide is put into the blood. Now, as you can see, this diagram represents blood containing oxygen as red and blood containing carbon dioxide as blue. It doesn't mean the blood actually looks blue, but it just wants you to see the difference. So now that the blood is coming from your lower region or your trunk and your legs, it goes up your iliac vein. Then blood coming from your kidneys to back to your heart goes through your renal vein. Then blood coming from your liver comes through your hepatic vein. And then all the blood coming from different parts of your body, they come up through this blood vessel called your inferior vena cava, right? And they go right back into your heart. All right. Let's go over here now to the aorta going upwards. Remember, we just went through the aorta going downwards. Well, let's see what happens when the aorta goes upwards. So this part of the aorta goes upwards, and this artery is called your carotid artery, right? Now, your carotid artery, it carries blood to your head. But although this diagram doesn't show it, there's also another blood vessel that is here called your subclavian artery. And your subclavian arteries carry blood to your arms. All right, so you have your carotid artery carrying blood to your head, and your subclavian arteries carrying blood to your arms. And then now, when the oxygen in the blood is utilized and carbon dioxide is placed, the blood that is going back to your heart now, from your head, it goes through your jugular vein, right? Your jugular vein is what carries blood back to your heart from your head. Now, this blood that is going back to your heart does not have oxygen in it. Your body would have already utilized oxygen, and it's sending it back to the heart so that the heart could ensure that oxygen gets into it. It's a cycle, it's a circulation. Also, although it's not shown in the diagram, blood coming from your arms would come through your subclavian veins. Remember, the blood going to your arms would go through your subclavian artery. And then now the blood coming through your jugular vein and the subclavian vein, right, they would come through until they reach a vein called your superior vena cava. And then they would enter along with blood coming from your inferior vena cava, and all of that blood coming from the rest of your body and from your head and your arms will then go right back into the heart, into this side. You notice it has now gone into the other side of the heart. Now, both sides of the heart, this part that you see red, this part that you see blue, they are separated. We're going to look at this shortly, right? They're separated. But then all of that blood now would then start going from your heart through a blood vessel called your pulmonary artery and into your lungs. Remember, the blood that is going from your heart to your lungs, that blood contains carbon dioxide. It is going back to your lungs so that it could be filled with oxygen. And then the whole cycle continues again and again and again and again and again. It's actually a very quick, rapid cycle because, as you know, with every heartbeat, there should be this kind of cycle going on. So you see how rapidly it is occurring. Now, it's very important what you can do. You can pause this And you can take a look at the different veins, arteries, and blood vessels in general so that you can learn some of their names, because it is important that you know the names of at least most of these blood vessels. All right, so you could pause it as long as you want, take a look, and try your best to grasp it. All right.